What's up, my melanated family? It's your boy MGK back into the building. Hey, like I said in the teaching last week, aren't y'all ready? Are you ready? This is just a crumb of information right here. This is a crumb. We just gonna get, like I said, we get back to the history part. Now we taking it way back. We taking it way back. So, are y'all ready to get your paper and pens out? Get your notepad ready. Get your popcorn. Get your coffee. Get your donut and get your feet cocked up and hey, get ready for this information, man. You probably gonna want get your computer out, get your iPad and get your Kindle book ready because we about to get into it. We're gonna do a part 1 and a part 2, and look, I'm gonna take my time and read this information. Take your time. All that get and get an understanding. Cause the conscious mind and the carnal mind can't mix. That's in Corinthians, Romans, Galatians, Ephesians. Hey, we're gonna bring some of the word out too, but later on. We gotta get the historical part first. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Make sure you get ready. So we're gonna talk about the ancient Atlanteans, Lemurians in the ancient Moon, the Motherland of Moon. We're gonna talk about it today. So we're gonna start with my first book by Sheikh Diop. I probably want to get that book right there. One of the top scholars from back in the day, Civilization or Barbarism, and anything on anthropology. And we're gonna go to page 84, and at the bottom of it, this is a paragraph. I'm just gonna read because there's a whole lot of stuff in here. I'm just gonna read this paragraph right here. Don't you know that in your country have lived the most beautiful and most noble race of men that ever lived? This is the question that he asking. Race of which in your town are the descendants or a seed that survived, but there were violent earthquakes and floodings. And in one day, in one night of rain, all of your bellicose people as one man were buried under the ground. And the island of Atlantis in the same manner disappeared under the sea. The result in that is that in comparison to what there remains some small islets, nothing but the skeleton and desiccated body. All of the riches and the softest parts of the soil have been swallowed up, leaving only the skeleton of the country. And this was unknown to you because the survivors of the destruction have been dead for several generations without leaving any traces. So, we got that one because there's a lot of stuff in this book. There's a lot of good information for our melanated people. So we got that one out the way. Remember, that's page 80. That's page 84 right there. So now, this is by AJK. Book. This man right here wrote this book way back in the day. Right, I'm gonna show you the picture. You gonna be like, wait a minute, what? I say what? Oh yeah. Let's see. He wrote the book and let's see. This book, oh man, let's see. Man, trying to find the year of this book, but man, I think I'm gonna say about like 1900. We just gonna say that. This is what AJK said that the Atlanteans look like. Hey, I'm not saying this. Hey, it's right there. But let's go on with it, see what it say. We ain't gonna be long. We ain't gonna be long with this one. And it says the legend of Atlantis. Atlantis is believed discovered, but in Asian, not Atlantic. So said the headline of the Norfolk Legend story, July 19, 1967. The same story appeared on the same date in the New York Times under the headline Ionian City found after 3,400 years is linked to Atlantis. That is true. Both stories refer to the discovery of a Mayan city buried under 30 feet of volcanic ash on the island of Thera in the Aegean Sea. In charge of the excavations were Dr. James H. Maver of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and Miss Emily Vermeer, professor of art and Greek at Wesley College. Maver and Miss Vermeer linked the discovery with Atlantis because there is evidence that it was an advanced civilization and because it came to a sudden violent end. Notice both headlines. The news value of this story is not so much the discovery practically intact of a city that flourished about 1500 BC, but possible connection with the fabled Atlantis. This is the most recent attempt to rationalize the Atlantis legend by changing its location and date. The oldest known mention of Atlantis is found in two Plato's dialogues, the Timaeus and Critias, which date in the 5th century BC. Plato introduced Atlantis in a conversation between a Solon and certain Egyptian priests as Sayers, as a large island in the Atlantic which sank in the volcanic catastrophe some 9,000 years previously. Since Plato's time, there have been hundreds of books and articles written about Atlantis, most of these in the last 200 years. Some tried to show that Plato's story of Atlantis was not only possible but probable. Others tried to prove Atlantis a myth or else rationalize the story by associating Atlantis with some local city other than the mid-Atlantic and changing the date to more recent figures. You see how they said they came and changed the dates, times and dates. That's what the script say, but let's keep it moving. A large portion of Atlantis literature resides in the voluminous works of the variety of another and organized products of the centuries. It is the attention given to the Atlantis legend by pseudoscientists and what they call them other societies. Let me just say, in societies that causes legitimate scientists to avoid even discussing the subject. See, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to bring this up because this is why right there. But let's keep it moving. Okay. Several medieval writers refer to this legendary land, but probably the best known and most popular book on Atlantis, Ingentius Donnelly's Atlantis, the Adruvian World, first published in 1882. It was revised and edited by Egerton Skies in 1949. No book published before or since accumulated such as mass of geographical, archaeological, and legendary material, nor presented so many ingenious and eloquent arguments in support of the legend of Atlantis. Donnelly's arguments are based largely on evidence of similarities between the culture of ancient Egypt and the Indian cultures of Central and South America. On both sides of the Atlantic, one finds the use of a 365-day calendar, the practice of embalming, the building of pyramids, legends of a flood, etc. Donnelly argues that both the ancient Egyptians and American Indian cultures originated in Atlantis and spread east and west when Atlantis was destroyed. The Atlantean heritage, Donnelly suggests, would explain the fact that the Basque of the Spanish Pyrenees differ from all their neighbors in appearance and language. The Basque tongue is the only non-Aryan tongue of Western Europe. Lincoln Library, Volume 1, page 516. Similarly, the Canary Islanders bear little resemblance to any African group and practice mummification of their deal. Donnelly says Spain, Portugal, and the Canary Islands would be likely landing spots for refugees From sinking Atlantis, he compares the names of the cities, Asia Minor and those of Central America, cities which were already named when the first European explorers arrived. So think about it. Didn't it say the Egyptians and the Mayans, all of them was similarities? They was kinfolk. They was cousins. So let's keep it moving. We're gonna keep it moving on that right there. We got that one out the way. So we got this one here, Lemuria and Atlantis, the studying the past to survive the future. Shirley Andrews. And she did her homework on this. And I ain't even finished with the book yet, because there's a lot of information in here too. This is chapter 1, and then the title of this is just the first chapter. Right here, let me go by my notes, cause this right here, woo. I'm gonna go by my notes. So let's see. Let's see. Boom. Chapter 2 before the. Okay, we just gonna read from chapter 1 to widespread myths of myths and legends. The chapter of the book of this page is the Motherland of Moon. The most ancient texts in the Far East, writings in stone in Central America, and esoteric sources, inner secret knowledge of the initiate, all describe a land considerable size that was once above the surface in the Pacific Oceans. During its long history, this missing country has acquired of a variety of names. Sacred Tibetan text, remember, is as Ramu. Inscriptions on the American continents referred as the lost motherland of Mu. In Asia K, in Asia K, who had accessed the Ashaki records, names it Mary or Lemuria. Lemuria may have originated from the word numerous, which the Romans used to describe. Let's see. This what the Romans say. Rome used to describe the spirits of the dead ancestors who walked by night. Lemuria also stems from the 19th century, when scientists unexpectedly found small, non-cultural animals called the lemurs living on Madagascar and New Guinea. They believe the original home of these monkey-like mammals was 250 miles away in Africa. That there was no obvious explanation of how they traveled so far. The missing land was named Lemuria, in honor of the lemurs. Today, the ancient sunken country in the Pacific Ocean is a place where two names, Lemuria and Mu, are interchangeable. During the hundred centuries of existence, the motherland of Mu, like everywhere else on the fragile surface of our planet, changed in the size and shape between 50,000 BC and 10,000 BC. When the immense amount of water from the oceans were incorrupted and the snow and ice of glaciers, sea level were hundreds of feet lower. Islands everywhere were much bigger, and ocean water ceased to cover the fertile continued shells. Scholar Edgerton Scott, see Appendix 2, believes that during this time various separate cultures lived on the large masses of land in the Pacific. They formed a kingdom that was linked by the sea and communicated freely with each other in their sophisticated ships that held as many as 500 people. Reading the ocean currents and studying the constellations, these earliest navigators of the vast ocean skillfully took advantage of prevailing winds to travel wherever they wished to go. And then Cole James Churchward first learned about Mu from the records on the sacred Nakal tablets in India. The biography of Cole James Churchward in Appendix 2 will help to confirm that Mu is not just a legend, it was a real place. After many years of searching in Asia in Central America. For further information about the lost country, Churchwood believed that until 10,000 BC, the largest remaining island of the Motherland of Moon lay in the southern eastern Pacific on the broad area of uplifted seafloor. It extended southeast from Hawaii to the eastern islands, with a center somewhat south of the equator. Narrow channels of the ocean divided the land into three sections. Let's see. Today, to the west, Lemuria, several thousand square miles, included the society, the Krut, the Astral, the Tamut, and the Marquez Islands, all of which are relatively close together, south of Hawaii and south of the equator. Discoveries of coal and long history of floral growth on the island of Rapa, one of the Astral Islands, suggested that this portion of the Pacific Ocean was once above the surface. The western section of the large island of Lemuria gradually sank, and as ocean waters drained their homes and temples, people moved to the higher, safer ground of Sumatra, Java, Borneo, New Guinea, and Australia. Churchwood determined that four major cataclysms in 800,000 BC, 200,000 BC, 800,000 BC, and 10,000 BC were the culprits responsible for nature's tearing the beautiful land in the Pacific Ocean to pieces. Numerous volcanic islands and coral atolls which endure where Lemuria once stood confirm the instability of the region. The tiny animals that produce coral only survived in 150 feet or less water, since remains of the coral are found at the depths of 1,800 feet in the Pacific, and it indicates that the land that is now 1,800 feet deep was once swallowed water close to the surface. The instability of the ocean floor in the Southeast Pacific constantly subjected the Lemurians to the problems of unexpected earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Hey, hey, get this one. Hey, this is another good one right here. Get that one. Let's see here. Oh man, they ain't talking about nothing. Nobody talking about nothing. Let's get this one right here. This is one called Before the Pharaohs, right here, by Edward L. Malawski. And it's on page 161. Expurgating the story of Queen Mu. In Chesenisa, from the upper temple of the Jaguars, the Plungians copied the remains of murals depicting scenes of the village life, religious events, warfare, and rulers. After studying these scenes, Lee Plungian concluded that they told the story of a single generation of rulers and that offered the answers to the questions of the Mayan diffusion. For Lee P, I'm just going to keep it short. I ain't going to be long with this. It was an evidence of history opposed to myth, as well as the origin of the other civilizations and their mythology. In a representation on these murals were symbols of their totems or spirits. He identified the eagle as a macaw, the symbol of the Mayan princess. Her name became the Queen Mu, from the Mayan word of the macaw. Prince Chagmu was her brother, referred to as the powerful warrior because of his jaguar totem. Prince Chamu spotted shields appeared in the mural of the offerings cravings about the temple. Using these murals, Li P selected the spot where he believed an important statue lay buried, where it was become a correct interpretation of the murals of sheer luck. The spot where they chose to dig, in fact, hold a statue of Prince Chamu. According to Li P, it was the same character as the word image depicted on the temple walls. We're gonna just keep it right there. Hey, they know. They know. That's it. Hey, we ain't even finished yet. This is another one. The lost civilization of America, the rise and fall of world's oldest culture. I'm just gonna read the introduction part of this because I need to start reading this, man. It's a lot. It's a lot of information concerning this, but this is gonna be the preface, so this is not gonna be long. The unavoidable determinations from the basis of the lost civilization of Lemuria. The task of investigation to assemble the best and latest proof on behalf of Lemuria as a real place and time, inhabited by a great people whose spiritual achievement in humankind most prized legacy. First disclosure suggested that the time and rapidly approaching when the undersea realm will be universally understood for what it really was, namely undisputed fountainhead of humanity. In modern recognition, the Lemurians will live again. The forces that they set in motion so long ago are even now building toward a eventual moment when we will once more come face to face with the imperishable essence of that vanished homeland. Then the realization will dawn on us that we are the children of Moon. Hey, it's another one right here. Man, I told y'all, now, hey, I ain't gonna be long on this one. This is chapter 2, the megalithic masterminds. It said the megalith ammonia. Legends and the resplendent ancient civilizations and their cataclysmic destruction are part of nearly every culture in the world. The modern skeptic asks, well, if highly advanced ancient science existed in the past, then where is the evidence of their machinery and such? And shouldn't there be the remains of these people's cities? The answer is that such evidence does exist, and hundreds of ruined cities have been found both above and below water. That's and below water. And look, this is what one thing I'ma highlight. We got to highlight things around here. You got to show and prove in what you're doing, precept on precept. Ain't that what the script say? I put precept on precept on precept, and there are two. And look, if there's two or more gathered, the Most High is in the midst, right there. So let's get into it. The idea that man was primitive in the past, and that the present represents the highest civilization our planet has achieved, is fairly well accepted in the West, while other cultures view history as a cynical and see our current society as a decline from our former golden age. Out of the past, we find megalithic cities built to last for 1,000 years. How primitive must we suppose these people were? Throughout the world, there exists a type of megalithic construction that is called the Atlantean by those researchers who believed in an advanced civilization of the past. This is typically a type of construction which used the gigantic blocks of stone, often crystallized granite, huge centers with many important cities. Many of these cities are permanently lost forever, but others have been or will be discovered. It is said that the time of Atlantis and Rama, the Mediterranean was a large and fertile valley rather than a sea as it is today. The Nile River came out of Africa, and it does to today, and in what's called the river I don't know how to pronounce this particular word. However, instead of flowing into the Mediterranean, the Nile Delta in northern Egypt continue into the valley and then turn westward to flow a series of lakes to the south of Crete. The river flowed out between the Malta and Sicily, southern Sardinia, and then into the Atlantic at Gibraltar. The Pillars of Hercules, this huge fertile valley along the Sahara, then a vast fertile plain. And this is what it was known at that time. Was known in the ancient times as the Osirian civilization. The Osirian civilization could also be called the pre-dynastic Egypt. The ancient Egypt that built the Sphinx, and the pre-Egyptian Megalithic such as the Osirian, the Abydos. In this outline of ancient history, it was the Osirian Empire that was invaded by Atlantis, and the Vanisting Wars raged throughout the world toward the end of the period of Atlantis' warlike imperial expansion. Now, Solon relates the Plato dialogues. See, why is it always Plato and everybody else? I just read through other 3-4 sources that prove that it's saying the same thing. We're gonna read it again. Solon relates in Plato's dialogue that Atlantis just near the cataclysmic and invaded ancient Greece. The ancient Greece was that the ancient Greeks knew nothing about. This unknown ancient Greece we shall see is closely connected to the Osiris to Isis civilization. The story of Osiris himself, as related by the Greek historian Plutarch, is revealing in technology. According to the Egyptian mythology, Osiris was born of the earth and sky, was the first king of Egypt, an instrument of his civilization. Osiris allegedly traveled throughout the world teaching the arts of civilization after the flood. He weaned in the inhabitants of Egypt, and from their barbarous way taught agriculture, formulated laws, and taught the worship of gods. Having accomplished this, he set off to impart his knowledge to the rest of the world. I'm just gonna read because it's so much, man. This is why they don't want us to come back to our full knowledge of who we are as melanated people, so the Most High can really get where he want us to be at on this high state of mind where we once was. I'm telling you, we was a high ranking civilization of people, not just in Africa, not just the Mayan, the Toltecs, but everywhere. That's why I did my history lesson once before on how not just to say, we all great people. Like I just read in the other books that we are great people, we are warlike people, but we understand the spiritual aspect of these things and that concerning our life, how the enemy trying to attack us, and how everything, how they want to be with depression, heaviness. But all these different attacks that's going on in our community, that we have the power and authority to come against anything in our life. I'm telling you, man. We're gonna get into some more. And this one right here is called the root race. And we're gonna get into this right here. And this title. And it's called Root Races, Epoch, and the Sub-Races. Let's get it. According to Belaski's writings, there will be 7 root races assembled for our Earth. Each root race is divided into 7 sub-races. Only 5 root races have appeared so far. The 6th is expected to emerge in the 28th century. Francis Bacon, from whom the Theosophy considered to be the legendary Count of Saint German, in his work, The New Atlantis, 1627, describes a potential future civilization which lives on a land called Motherland. So I just wanted to read that, but let's get into the races. The first root race, the Polarian. The first root race was the ethereal. They were composed of etheric matter. They produced by dividing like an Obia. Earth was still cooling at the time. The first mountain arose out of the stormy primeval ocean was Mount Meru. The second root race, the Hyborian. We just gonna do four of them, four of the races. The second root race lived in Hyboria. The second root race was colored golden yellow. The Hyboria included what is now northern Canada, the Greenland, Iceland, Scandinavia, northern Asia, and Tadamashakata. The climate was tropical because Earth had not yet developed an axial tilt. The SO name of their continent is Palaska. They call themselves the Kiparushas. The Kiparushas, they reproduce by budding. These are melanated people were everywhere at that time as well. The third root race, Lemurian. The third root race, the Lemurian, lived in Lemuria. The SO name of Lemuria is Shalamela. Lemuria, according to the Theosis, existed a large part of what is now the Indian Ocean, including Australia and extending to the South Pacific Ocean. In its remains of the Australian continent, the island of the New Guinea, and the island of Madagascar. Lemuria sank gradually and was eventually destroyed by increasing erupting volcanoes. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, it was thought by geologists that the age of the Earth was only about 200 million years, because radioactive dating that have not yet come into use, so the geological epochs were believed to have occurred at a much later time than it started to be the case today. According to traditional theosophy, the Lemurian root race began 34 and a half million years ago, in the middle of what is believed to be the Jurassic. Thus, the people of Lemuria coexisted with dinosaurs. The Lemurian race was much taller and bigger than our current race. The first three sub-races of Lemuria reproduced. I ain't want to read. Let's see. I ain't gonna read all that, man. That's just gonna stop it right there. I ain't gonna read the rest of it. I'm going to the fourth root race called the Atlantean. This race inhabit Atlantis. The sub-races of Atlantean root race, the fourth root race, the Atlantean, according to Theosophy, arose approximately 4,500 million years ago in Africa from the fourth sub-race of Lemurians in the part of Africa that have been colonized by the sub-race in the area now inhabited by the Ashanti. According to Theosophy, the first Atlantean sub-race was the result of the last, or the seven Lemurian subrace, the Shakanka Shamu, the Shank Kashuma. Hey, don't be laughing at me. Manu, which migrated first to the south of the Atlantean continent, and from there migrated further north. The SO name of Atlantis is Kusha. The Atlantis. Oh wait a minute, Kusha. Sound a little bit familiar there. The Atlantean root race has Mongolian features. They began with bronze skin and gradually evolved into red American Indian, brown Malayan, and yellow Mongolian race because the Atlanteans eventually migrated to the Americas and Asia. The seven subraces, the Atlantean root races were. Oh man, so many of them. Let's see. Now I wanna read some of the civilization of it. Mind you, when they said they had different shades of melanin. They had black. Have you ever noticed how you had melanated people that had different. They had Negroid features, but they had different. How they say, like, different ways of how they look, but they was melanated people, man. I'm telling you, melanated people was everywhere, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. Now let's get on to this right here. The civilization of Atlantis. During the long period of time when Atlantis was ruled by the Toltecs, the ancestors of the American Indians, the civilization of Atlantis was at its height. This was the period between 1,000,000 and 900,000 years ago, called the Golden Age of Atlantis. The Atlanteans had many luxurious conveniences. Their capital was called the city of the Golden Gates, baby. The city of the Golden Gates, man. I'm trying to tell you. At this height, it had 2 million inhabitants. There were extensive, aquatics leading to the city of a mountain lake. The Atlantis had airships powered by the valve that could seat the 2 to 8 people. The economic system was a socialist like that is of the Incas. The Atlanteans were the first to develop organized warfare. The military developed valve-powered air battles that contained 50 to 100 fighting men. These air battleships developed poison gas bombs. The infatuated fired tipped arrows. The Toltecs on Atlantis. Let's see. But now we're just gonna keep it right there. But yeah, man, even in this book right here, talks about how they had we had computers and cell phones even then. Because it was a quote. One day I'm about to find that, and it stated that everybody was on a high spiritual plane. In that particular time, they had, right? You see on the glyphs, where they had airplanes and helicopters even then. Man, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, we was doing this out here. We ran this thing out here, baby. Trying to tell y'all. Now, this is from the submerged continents of Atlantis and Lemuria. Their History and Civilization by Rudolf Steiner. Let's see here. This is chapter 2. Our Atlantean forefathers. The Atlantean ancestors differed more from the man today than may be imagined by anyone who is wholly limited to the world of sense for his knowledge. The difference extends not only to the outward appearance but also in mental capacities, their science, and also their technical arts. Their whole civilization differ much from that hour today. If we go back to the early time of the Atlantean humanity, we shall find their mental capacity altogether different from our own. Logically reasoning, the calculatory combinations upon which of all the product at the present day it is based, they were entirely wanting in the early Atlanteans, but in the place of these, they possessed a highly developed memory. This memory was one of their most prominent mental faculties. For example, they did not count as we do by the application of a certain acquired rules. A multiplication table was something absolutely unknown in the early Atlantean times. No one had impressed upon the understanding of the fact that 3 times 4 were 12. A person's ability make such a calculation when necessary rested on the fact that he could remember cases of the same or similar kind. He remembered how this was done on former occasions. Now it must be clearly understood that whenever a new faculty is developed in a being and the old one loses its force and precision, the man of the present day has an advantage over the the Atlanteans possessed in a logical understanding and aptitude for combination. But on the other hand, his memory power has won. We now think in ideas the Atlantean. When he says in today's time, and we have to think on the modern day. The Atlantean thought it in pictures. You got to remember, in pictures. Let's see. I'd say the Atlantean thought in pictures, and when a picture rose his mind, he remembered many other similar pictures which he had formerly seen, and then formed his judgment accordingly. Consequently, all education then was quite different from then on later times. It was not intended to provide the child with rules or to sharpen his wits. Rather, was life presented to him comprehensive pictures, so that subsequently he could call to remembrance as much as possible. When dealing with this or that circumstance, when the child had grown up and had reached maturity, he could remember no matter what he might have to do. That something similar had been shown him in the days of his instruction. He saw clearly how to act when the new event resembles something already seen. When absolutely new conditions arose, the Atlantean found himself compelled to experiment, while the man of today inspired much of this direction, being furnished with a set of rules which he can easily apply in circumstances to know him. Such a system of education gave a strong uniformity to the entire life. Things were done again and again in exactly the same way, very long periods of time. The faithfulness of memory offered no scope for anything, in all approaching rapidly of our own progress. A man did what he had always seen done before. He did not think, he remembered. Not he who had learned much was held as an authority, but he who had experienced a great deal could therefore remember much. He could have been impossible in Atlantean times for anyone who can now reach a certain age to be called upon to decide any affair importance. Confidence was placed only in one who could look back at a long experience. Man. Whew. And then I'm gonna read. This is gonna be the last one here. Thus, while the power of logical thinking was still wanting, especially the early Atlanteans, they possess in their highly developed power of memory something that which gave a special character to the whole activity. But the other powers are always bound up in the nature of one's human force. Memory is near to the deeper foundations laid by nature in man, that is, the power of reason, and in connection with the former other impulse will develop which bore greater resemblance to those lower natural forces that the motive forces of human action the present day. Thus the Atlantean was master of what is called the life force, just as we now draw from the cold force of warmth, which is changed into the force of the propulsion in our methods of traffic. So did the Atlanteans understood how to use grammatical force of living things in the service of their technical works. That concludes part 1 of the Atlantean civilization. Now we're gonna get into the PowerPoint.